Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Clay, and I am the Bucks believer. Tonight, we saw the Bucks pick up a hard-fought 123-119 victory over the Phoenix Suns. This victory leaves the Bucks just one win away from winning their first NBA Finals championship in 50 years. So, needless to say, I am ecstatic. This was a tough win for the Bucks as they got off to a really slow start, falling behind 37-21 after just the first quarter. In that first quarter, we saw the Suns, particularly Chris Paul and Devin Booker, really pick apart each of the two pick and roll schemes the Bucks have used on the defensive end of the court throughout this series. Milwaukee started off in their conventional pick and roll defense with Brook Lopez guarding in a drop. We saw Paul pick this apart right from the beginning as he was able to generate some shots for himself in the mid-range, as well as some open three-point shots on the perimeter for Jay Crowder, as well as Mikal Bridges. From there, the Bucks made an adjustment. They subbed Lopez out around the 7-minute mark of the first quarter and inserted Pat Connaughton instead. In this lineup, the Bucks were switching just about every single screen, and from there, we saw Phoenix really take advantage of it by getting the ball inside to DeAndre Ayton against smaller players. Ayton had a huge couple minutes against the switching unit, and throughout the game, he ended up scoring 20 points and 10 rebounds on 7 for 12 shooting. I'd be willing to gamble that most of that production came with Lopez out of the game, so as soon as Brook left in that first quarter, we saw CP3 really try to get Ayton going. From there on out, though, the Bucks really started to get the ball rolling on offense, and they were able to cut that lead down with a huge second quarter. The second quarter run started off with Phoenix playing their small ball lineup, as Ayton had to rest at some point, and that spelled disaster for the Suns. Their lineup with Torrey Craig playing the 5 didn't have nearly the same amount of success against the Bucks defense, and they couldn't seem to slow Milwaukee down on the offensive end of the court, as Brook Lopez had a couple really key inside touches as he piled in, I believe, all 9 of his points that he scored in this game during a stretch at the beginning of that second quarter. From there, the Bucks were able to take the lead 64-61 heading into the break, and in the third quarter, they were able to extend that lead all the way up to 16 points at one point. In the fourth quarter, the Suns were able to bring it back and make this a really close game at the end. The Bucks were winning by just 1 point when the Suns had possession with about 20 seconds remaining, and Jrue Holiday had a key strip of Devin Booker as Booker was left without anywhere to do. He pivoted to pass the ball out to the perimeter, and Holiday was waiting for that spin. And he took the ball away from Booker, came down on the fast break, and threw up a monster lob to Giannis Antetokounmpo for a slam and one over Chris Paul that put the Bucks up by 3 points. From there, Giannis would miss the free throw, but Jrue Holiday had a massive tip to Chris Middleton, who got fouled. Middleton went 1 for 2 from the free throw line to put the Bucks up by 4, and they were able to get a defensive stop on Devin Booker to wrap this game up and give them a 3-2 advantage in this series. Overall, this was a huge team victory for the Bucks. They got excellent contributions out of just about every player in their rotation with the exception of Jeff Teague. But this really started with Jrue Holiday. Holiday has struggled to start off this series against the Suns, but tonight he was almost perfect, scoring 27 points on 12 for 20 shooting from the field and 3 for 6 shooting from the three-point line. This was clearly his best game of the series as a scorer, as he did a great job of getting to the basket, and he finished at a much higher level than he has throughout the series. He also was able to knock down a lot of the jump shots that he's been missing, including a couple really key pull-up J's and that second quarter run where the Bucks were able to cut into Phoenix's lead. Holiday did a great job in pick and roll as well, as he was able to get to his spots and knock down some fadeaway jump shots over defenders after a Giannis Antetokounmpo screen freed up some extra space for him. In addition to his scoring, Holiday did a great job distributing out of the pick and roll, as he had a couple of huge passes to Giannis on rim runs, as well as some nice drive and kick distributions out to shooters on the perimeter, particularly Pat Connaughton, who had another really nice shooting game for Milwaukee. In addition to his great offense, Holiday was also great on the defensive end of the court, as we saw him once again pressuring Chris Paul with a full court defense, and that really seemed to tire Paul out and took away his effectiveness whenever Holiday was on him. Paul ended up having a pretty good stat line, scoring 21 points and dishing out 11 assists in this game, but most of that production came during a stretch in the fourth quarter where Coach Mike Budenholzer put Holiday on Devin Booker instead of on Paul. During that stretch, Paul kind of took over the game for the Suns and led them on a comeback. So whenever Holiday was on CP3, he was really able to limit what Paul was able to do, and that's a look that I look to see Budenholzer run out much more in Game 6. Holiday had his biggest steal of the night on Booker at the end of the game, as I mentioned before, and he threw up that lob pass to another player who had a great night for the Bucks in Antetokounmpo. Giannis had 32 points on 14 for 23 shooting in this game, and it actually felt like it was a little bit of an off night for him considering how spectacular he has been over the course of this series. Giannis once again did a great job attacking out of isolations as he was able to blow by DeAndre Ayton for some easy finishes at the rim on multiple occasions in this game. Antetokounmpo also did a good job of drawing contact as he put multiple Suns into foul trouble. Booker finished with 5 fouls, Paul finished with 5 fouls, and Ayton finished with 4. So you can tell the pressure that Giannis was able to put on the Suns defense. He wasn't able to convert his free throws, going just 4 for 11 from the stripe in this game, but you can tell the physicality with which Antetokounmpo was playing really changed the way in which the Suns were able to defend the Bucks. In addition to Giannis and Holiday having ginormous nights, the third member of the Bucks' Big Three, Chris Middleton, was also terrific. This was really the first game of the entire postseason where all 3 members of the Bucks' Big Three have been firing on all cylinders, and you could tell how deadly their offense can be when those 3 guys are all playing well tonight. Middleton had 29 points on 12 for 23 shooting and 3 for 8 shooting from the three-point line, and he came up particularly huge in the fourth quarter as down the stretch he made a couple really giant baskets, including a three-pointer at the end of the shot clock over Jay Crowder where he got fouled for an and one. And it was about as good of defense as you could have played on Crowder's part, as he was right in Middleton's grill. If it wouldn't have been a foul, you probably would have given Chris about a 10% chance of making that shot, but throughout this series, Cash Money Middleton has been making the Suns pay on those late game shots, and tonight was no different, as he also made a really tough mid-range jumper with less than 2 minutes to go. So, just a great game from Chris Middleton as well. In addition to the stars showing up for the Bucks tonight, their role players were also quite good. As I alluded to a bit before, Pat Connaughton had another fantastic shooting game, scoring 14 points and going 4 for 6 from the three-point line. His one 2-point basket came on a really nice drive where he attacked DeAndre Ayton off the bounce and was able to draw a foul and go to the free throw line. He also grabbed 6 rebounds as he continues to do a nice job of providing the Bucks with some support on the boards, as he's always in there battling and helping them get the advantage on the glass that they've had throughout this series. In addition to Connaughton giving the Bucks a big boost, Brook Lopez was also very good. As I talked about before, he had that really nice stretch at the beginning of the second quarter where he was really the primary focus of the Bucks offense. And other than that, he didn't chip in too much over the course of this game, but he did make one big 3 in the second half. And he was a consistent force on defense. He wasn't always as effective as you'd like him to be, but he certainly did do a nice job of defending Ayton when he was in the game, so you have to give Brook credit for that as well. In addition to Lopez, the Bucks got a nice boost from their backup center in Bobby Portis, as Portis came off the bench and had 9 points on 3 for 6 shooting from the field and 2 for 4 shooting from the three-point line. I have a few gripes with the way in which Portis played in this game, as he had multiple gambles where they didn't end up paying off on the defensive end of the court, where he bit going for a steal and ended up giving the Suns an open shot, but I don't think they really made the Bucks pay for that. So Portis's boost on offense was definitely the biggest impact he had in this game for Milwaukee, positive or negative. Both Portis and Lopez finished with a +10 plus-minus rating in this game, so it was definitely good to see that the Bucks can win when they're playing big men and playing that conventional way instead of just playing small ball all the time. On the other side of the court, the Bucks' defense wasn't nearly as good as their offense. They surrendered 119 points to the Suns, which I believe is the most Phoenix has scored over the course of this series thus far. Once again, that came on the back of a humongous performance from Devin Booker, as D-Book had his second consecutive 40-point night for Phoenix, scoring 40 points on 17 for 33 shooting from the field, 2 for 4 shooting from the three-point line, and 4 for 5 shooting from the free throw line in tonight's game. The Bucks were mostly using their secondary perimeter defenders on Booker, which is an interesting strategy, but it's definitely one that makes sense to me. Booker is someone who relies on difficult shot making to get his scoring numbers. So why would you waste your best perimeter defender on someone who's going to be able to make the difficult shots that ultimate perimeter defender can force him into taking anyways? For that reason, I think it's better that Holiday guards Paul and limits what he's able to do, while we force Booker to deal with PJ Tucker and Pat Connaughton and Chris Middleton instead. That's led to Booker having some huge nights for Phoenix over the last 2 games, but it's a sacrifice that the Bucks are willing to make, and it certainly has paid off as Milwaukee has come away with 2 narrow victories. One suggestion that I would make to Coach Mike Budenholzer if I were on the Bucks staff is to play less PJ Tucker. In this game, PJ was a -7 in 24 minutes as he wasn't super effective defending Devin Booker, as he piled up 5 fouls in those 24 minutes, and he's definitely a pretty close to 0 on the offensive end of the court. He does provide some good offensive rebounding, but other than that, there's not too much. Tucker did make 1 corner three-pointer in this game, but in general, I think that the Bucks are better off playing a lineup where Brook Lopez and Pat Connaughton are on the court than they are with Tucker. Now, Tucker was out of the game more often than Connaughton or Lopez were, as Pat played 33 minutes, Brook played 29 minutes, and Tucker played 24 minutes. But a lot of that came over the course of the game where Tucker was in foul trouble, and at the end, Tucker was in the lineup where I just think that Connaughton or Lopez would have been more effective because of the boost they bring to the offense. This isn't as important when the Bucks' big 3 is playing as well as they did tonight, but if one of those guys has an off night and Milwaukee needs more offensive production, I think that taking Tucker out of the lineup for larger stretches of the game would be something that would definitely help Milwaukee. Playing more Bobby Portis can also help in that way, but overall, that's just one little small nitpick that I have from this game, along with not playing Jeff Teague. I get why Budenholzer plays Teague, as he's definitely a better defender on Chris Paul full court than Bryn Forbes would be off the bench, but I think that you just have to match up Drew Holiday's minutes with Chris Paul's as best as you can and deal with it from there. I think that I've covered everything that I wanted to cover, so thank you all for watching to this point. It's been a lot of fun cheering for the Bucks so far in this series, and they're just one win away from becoming champions. So what a ride it's been, and hopefully they can finish it off at Fiserv Forum in Game 6. Thank you for watching. Be sure to leave a like and subscribe, especially if you are a fellow Bucks believer. This is the place for you. Let me know in the comments what you thought of this game. I think that I've covered everything that I wanted to cover, so that's going to be it for me. Ladies and gentlemen, I will see you all again very soon.